What's up, Sherry? I think we're live.
Hey, Francis.
So, welcome to the Self Made channel to everyone who's viewing and everyone who will view. My name is Francis Magubot, and basically, the big message that we have for this YouTube channel is we're going to be interviewing very, very successful people at whatever they do. And the purpose is to inspire everyone to live their best life. So, what's up, Sherry? Do you want to say what's up real quick?
Hello, everybody. What's up?
All right. So, a little background on Sherry, just because I feel like my whole life I've been taking advice from the wrong group of people. And through taking advice from the correct people who have made it, I feel like I've really just developed a different mindset. So Sherry's definitely someone to be taking advice from. She graduated from Hofstra with a community health degree. And what's really cool and what I think is sick is at 24, she had a $105,000 base pay at a medical sales job. And with bonuses and through her performance, she was able to earn 150 for a couple years. She took that money, reinvested in that to start her own business, and now she's a full-time entrepreneur.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction, Francis.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, Sherry, could you tell everyone on the call, like, sort of what your life is like now and what drives you to keep moving forward?
Yeah, so life is definitely different as an entrepreneur, and just it starts off in the morning when you wake up, and I'm not waking up to start my day by going into the field and talking to doctors. Now I wake up and I can walk like 10 steps to my office and start my day off right then and there. So it's definitely it kickstarts the day off differently. Being an entrepreneur now, it's all about connecting for me. So different ways that I can go out and meet new people or put myself in new situations, new circumstances, so that I can actually talk to people and get to know people. The best part about what my life is like now, Francis, is I'm less mobile, being that I'm less in the car, and I can be more necessarily behind the screen doing like what we're doing and Skyping with a client or Skyping with somebody that I'm coaching. It's so cool. And it's awesome for people our age to know that technology and the fact that we've grown up in technology, you can really capitalize and build a career and a brand. And it only takes a laptop and some Wi-Fi. So things are definitely different.
So, with that being said, I totally recommend checking out Sherry on social media, whether it's Facebook and Instagram. You have a YouTube channel too, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I'm just kicking mine off the ground. So, Sherry, could you tell me a little bit about like why you majored in what you did in college and like whether your parents paid for your tuition or whether you paid for it and like the perspective that you had through college?
Yeah, so I loved college, believe it or not. I went to Hofstra. It was actually a last resort. I originally went to school to become a speech pathologist because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And Towson was my first main choice. And I got to the campus and I wasn't in love with it. So Hofstra for me, because I'm from Long Island, I didn't really want to live on Long Island again, but it turned out to be a last resort. So I, again, didn't really know what I wanted to study. I jumped around majors in my first 2 years and then really found that the health program at Hofstra was spectacular. And I dove into all my classes. I took an accelerated program. So I was doing summer school and night courses. I studied abroad. And what happened when I was in school is because I was in health, I knew I always wanted to do something in healthcare. But for me, school really put me in the classroom learning about our older population. So the aging population, it's called gerontology. It's actually the study of older and aging adults. So I was fascinated with this whole specialization of healthcare. And I personally have my mother and my father being 85 years young. My mom is turning 70 this year.
Wow.
They are part of the aging population. So for me, I was very inspired at a young age. I mean, I was 19 years old and I wanted to create an assisted living facility that really promoted healthy aging, really taking an age and just making it a number and allowing older adults to be able to do things that us as younger adults are doing right now. So I started teaching my parents about social media. I got them up to date on just fun things, like even going to Zumba and being active. And that was really a passion, my driving force through school. My parents did pay for my education, which is why when I came out of school and I really found the career that I'm in now, it is my vehicle. So now I know that I don't have to settle for under $200,000, which is a lifestyle I know for anyone living in New York. 200K after taxes, you're only looking at 100K. And then you have to figure out how to live on that.
Yeah.
So now, because I can earn more money, and it's really, the possibilities are endless, I get so excited because I can now contribute back to my parents, be able to retire them, show them the lifestyle that us younger generational people even are living, and be able to do that with them and really give back. So that's my driving force and what I've really been doing now.
I think what's really cool is that you were so passionate about what you did. I mean, I can totally relate to you because the only school that I applied to was the University of Delaware, and I was literally like on the borderline of getting in. And it's the only school I applied to because I just knew that I had zero chance of getting in anywhere else. And once I got to Delaware, that's really when I started to take school and life more seriously. And in high school, definitely had shares of having a really, really good time. So Sheri, would you say that you took college as seriously as you did like your business and life right now, or was there a transition in thought process and mindset?
So definitely a transition. Like I tell everybody, the person I am today, I really started to find myself throughout college. And it's funny because I was a party girl. I mean, I still have a part of me that is a party girl, but I joined a sorority. I was loving it. Hofstra's a large party school on Long Island, so there's a huge social aspect to it. But what I noticed is that in my sorority, I was the recruitment chair. I was the girl that went around and really got to speak to people and see, is this someone we really want to bring in? And my mindset at the time was all about me, me, me. If I was rejected by someone, Francis, I started to internalize the rejection. And I'd start to actually say things like, oh, how could they do this to me? What did I do? And it was right around the time I was a junior in college. I was actually out on Long Island and a stranger came up to me and he said, he first asked me if I had a boyfriend. At the time I said no. And I started bad mouthing this person that I had been seeing at the time. And this guy just straight up said, well, you have to read the 4 agreements because you're just making it all, you're internalizing everything. And so right when that angel came into my life and introduced me to that book, my mindset really shifted. And so at that point, I was a junior. I was really starting to consider what I wanted to do in life. And when this happened, and it just so happened that I read the book, I actually took action with the book. And that person that I was speaking so negatively about, because I handled it from a different perspective and really changed the thing around, we opened up to each other. And I opened up a door to him, and we're still to this day very, very close friends. So throughout college, my message really started to change. It was in the sense where I wanted to allow older people to know about these personal development books, because I'd see so many people aging and getting down on themselves about it. So I knew I wanted to do something with helping change people's mindsets from the point of being in school.
I can totally relate to that because my sophomore year of college, one of my best friend's dads owns this company called A to Z Insurance. And basically, they sell the most insurance to minorities. He's Puerto Rican, and they sell the most insurance to minorities in Delaware. And it's really, really cool because he's essentially a self-made millionaire too. And he recommended this book to me, sort of like the 4 Agreements, but it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
And that totally changed my perspective on life and creating assets and like just from reading that one book, it's totally just shifted my outlook on my entire life, which really shifted me from wanting to work my way from the bottom to the top of the company to just starting my own company and living the lifestyle of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And that's all it takes is sometimes just reading a book, it makes sense. And you're just like, why don't more people know about this? But that's
Yeah.
our job.
So, so your junior year, you came across the four agreements. How did that impact your job search? And right when you graduated, what did you want to go out and do?
So when I graduated, I finished actually a semester early. So I lived in a sorority house and I finished early. So all of my girlfriends were still going to school. And I said, okay, I don't really know what I want to do. Let me just go get a receptionist job so I can still live this party life, but bring in an extra income. And I did that for about a year and a half. And I remember at the time, I developed a lot of social media skills because my duty at this receptionist office was to be behind the computer, answer the phone, and that would be it. And so I really got acclimated to things like Tumblr, things like LinkedIn and Facebook. I knew about it. I knew how to work it. I knew how to build a website by doing that job. However, there was a person that was strategically placed into my life, Francis, and I look at her now as a mentor. Because right after I moved from that sorority house to Long Beach, I moved in by myself with roommates from Craigslist. One of the girls I moved in with, her name was Jacqueline Caffarella. At the time, I was this receptionist right out of college trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to get a job. I didn't really know how to, with a community health degree, my mindset was I have to eventually go back to school if I'm going to earn any type of income over 50K. So when I was living with Jackie, Jackie was going for her pharmaceutical job. And I would listen to her on the phone. I'd be like, wow, you are so good. And she's like, oh my God, like I could teach you how to do this. You could totally do this. And so she was the originator of why I got into sales, because she actually put me into an interview process with a really large pharmaceutical company. And I did great. And I got all the way to the top, Francis. And then my true colors showed. And the fact that I was so inexperienced showed when I botched the very last interview. Here I am, like 21 years old, 22, yeah. Botched my complete interview. I thought my life was over. I thought like, okay, I then ended up getting fired from that receptionist job because I missed so many days going for the pharmaceutical interview.
Wow. So how do you botch up your interview? Tell everyone how you did that.
Yeah. Funny story. It seems I can laugh about it now. At the time, I was just like banging my head against the wall. My hiring manager had said, Sheri, you need to do two things in this sales interview. She's looking for you to close her, and you have to come with high energy. So I was still learning what it meant to close somebody. I never had sales experience. So I was like, all right, sure, I'm just going to ask for the job. That's great. But the high energy, I thought, okay, let me take 2 Monster Energy drinks, and that would be a great idea. And so because I was not trained with actually speaking fast, I started stumbling all over my words. And she's like, 15 minutes, didn't close. This girl can't speak correctly. No, you come back when you have more experience. And so I got the door slammed in my face.
Oh, no. So that's like similar to an experience that I had where earlier this year, I interviewed for one of the top accounting firms, their advisory practice. And I totally thought I nailed the interview. It was in New York City. We stayed at a super nice hotel the night before where I was meeting like business owners from Silicon Valley and Colorado, just a super upscale hotel. So anyways, I end up crushing the interview. The two guys say, Francis, you're very well spoken. I think you'd be an excellent fit for the firm. And I mean, we ended up going out in New York City with my buddies the night before, and 4 weeks later, I didn't end up getting the job, and that just was so draining, and I felt bummed out, and I mean, that definitely took a hit on the self-esteem for me.
Yeah, it does. It hurts.
So how do you rebound from that, and how do you go out and get your first real job after school?
So lucky for me, that same hiring manager that was like, Cher, you tried your best, good try getting into this position. He said to go to the bottom and work my way up. And the bottom in sales, for anyone that's trying to get into pharmaceutical and medical device, you got to start at like an ADP, a Cintas, something that is business to business. You're going knocking on doors. And so to me, he's like, just go work for ADP. I'm like, okay, I just got fired from this job. I don't even know what ADP is. They're telling me it's payroll. I'm like, I have no idea what payroll is, but I had learned my lesson from the previous interview that I walked into this ADP interview thinking I was the shit, and I just crushed it. And they gave me the job, and I was like, great, now what do I do? And that was really when I got my first dose of sales. Like, here's a quota. You have this amount of time to learn what you're doing. By the way, you got to do a lot of cold calling and you got to do a lot of door-to-door prospecting, but you know, we'll give you the top 20 training program. So that's really, ADP was my catalyst, game starter in sales. And it wasn't the easiest. It definitely shows me why people start at the bottom, because it's the hardest. But lucky for me, Francis, what ended up happening is I had a client call. And a client call turned into $17.5 thousand in sales. And it just so happened that that client call happened right during the Hurricane Sandy. I was displaced. I lived in Long Beach. So the company not only says, Sheri, we understand you're displaced and you still had a great month. By the way, we're allowing the whole company to double their sales. So I had $30,000 in sales. And to me, when you're in that type of position and your numbers are skyrocketed, I said, sayonara, I'm going to a pharmaceutical company. And that's when I applied for a position with Forrest and left and went up to the big dogs with pharmaceutical.
So you crushed it at ADP, and you said you took a lot from door-to-door knocking and cold calling. What would you say the biggest thing that you took away from those two, like, training programs and just building your skill level? What did you take away the most from that?
So definitely watching your habits. I had a habit of sounding scripted because I didn't know what I was talking about. And it was funny because they preached to us about, you know, having your script in front of the phone and calling up the clients, and that was great. But again, there were a couple mentors that I had. So my current boyfriend right now, Keith, he was a mentor. And so I listened to him on the phone. And that's something that I took away, is that if there is somebody that is doing or maybe presents themselves in a certain way and you like what they're doing, you start to emulate it. You start to act like them. I would listen in on like the top people, the top CPA centrics, the ones that talk to the big firms. And I'd listen to how much of a flow they had. Their communication was very natural, non-rushed. Here I was developing my skills for the first time. And by listening to other people and really having that mentor, it allowed me to just gain more confidence in myself. And so from the very beginning, I established this idea of, A, your habits have to be good, because in a role like that, if you start procrastinating and you come to the end of your month and you're not at quota, you're on the chopping block. So you have to really stay ahead of the game, stay organized. The second big thing I learned that I really took into my next position was having a mentor and learning as much as you can from them.
Okay. And you go from that job, how do you get that pharma sales job? And I'm sure you absolutely crushed the pharma sales job with that experience, right?
Yeah, so the pharmaceutical job was definitely different. I put myself in a really uncomfortable situation in the sense that I picked a territory that I had not known anything about. So I picked one of the harder parts of Brooklyn. It's called North Brooklyn, East New York. And it was definitely new. It was a new experience. And what I learned is that, yes, money will motivate you. And then when you get the money, you start to get to a point where you ask yourself, am I happy with what I'm doing? Francis, the position that I was in as a pharmaceutical rep, it was great because the job perks of being a pharmaceutical rep are awesome. I had the company car.
What was the company car?
The company car was a Ford Escape. I had
Oh,
a
okay.
free Ford Escape, and you're just chilling. You're just driving around. But I had also people in my neck of the woods that would constantly come up to me, start asking me if I was lost. I had receptionists straight up turn and walk away when I step into the office. I had people allow a million other reps go before me, and yet they wouldn't even let me speak. So I got it hard, and I got my butt handed to me when I walked into Brooklyn. So ultimately, I knew from the very beginning, this is not someplace I want to stay. And so around that time, I started looking and seeking for another position. I did really well with Forest Labs. That was the pharmaceutical company. They launched a drug, and did great with the drug. It was very effective. But I started to think, is this really what I want to be doing? Do I want to wake up on a daily basis and help people get started with medication, when I'm looking at the facts and I'm seeing 50% of people are having results and 48% of people are having results by the placebo effect? So I started to question things and really feel the effects myself. And at that point, I got a message from a woman, a recruiter on LinkedIn, Francis, and she ultimately just complimented me on my hair. And something said to me, I was like, this woman's really nice. I've never had a recruiter actually say, let me call her. And she was the next strategic person that was placed into my life to get me out of that position and into another position that quadrupled my income.
So it helps to be good looking and have nice hair, right?
It does. If as long as your LinkedIn profile, you have a headshot, you're doing good.
All right, so you quadrupled your income. What was that like? I mean, to be making 150K at 24. I mean, what do you do with that income right away? Was it almost like a shock where you didn't know how to handle all that money?
Yeah, so it's funny because I'll never forget, they had flown me out to their headquarters in Georgia, and I was in the airport, and I had my mentor on the phone, Jackie, who was like coaching me through this whole thing, because I had to negotiate. And you get very good in sales, you start to learn these negotiating tactics. So I told her, I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna give it to me. I asked for this much, maybe it was too much. So my recruiter called and she's like, Sheri, are you sitting down? And I said, yeah, sure. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there with a glass of wine, just chilling. She's like, okay, well, the company is going to give you a 68 base, but for this year, because you're stepping into a brand new territory, we're going to guarantee you about $104,500,000. So technically it was like $104,000. And I was like, oh my God. And in that moment, I remember just having this weight come off my shoulders, like, wow, I don't even know what that money looks like. And so in the beginning, when you all of a sudden are making like 12K months, you damn right life gets a little bit different. For me, Francis, the toughest part was things changed. And going from pharmaceutical into a brand new territory, which was Long Island, brand new, device. Now I went from selling medication to an actual device, which was a compression sock. And the sock is actually helping people with their vascular, body, and helping them with their veins and their blood flow. So different in that aspect. The money started to flow endlessly because I started to do really, really well. And all of a sudden, it was actually my mint.com. My girlfriend was like, you have to get mint.com. So I said, okay, I had this app, and it would say, Sheri, you made $16,000 this month. And I'd be like, yes. And then all of a sudden, I'd look, how much did I spend? I spent $14,000 of it. I'm like, what?
What were you blowing that on?
I couldn't even tell you what I was blowing it on, Francis, but I can give you a good idea. I never looked at the price tag. I bought myself a $50,000 car. I went out and I would give my parents whatever they wanted. I would buy us lunch. I would do anything. And it was so fun. I would start booking trips, everything. So when I saw the way six figures can really make you feel and give you the freedom, it was very liberating. However, I also saw the habits where if you don't really have an identity, if you don't feel like you deserve that money, because for me, I struggled in the beginning. I felt like I didn't deserve to be hitting all these bonuses. And to be honest, the company that I was in, Francis, my managers and my own team really made me feel like I didn't deserve it. So I struggled in the beginning, and then ultimately I said, you know what? Money isn't the root of happiness. I have to get happy, and then whatever I get happy with, the money's gonna flow.
Wow. So you essentially took a lot of the money that you earned to go and start your own business. I mean, when did you shift from the mindset of I'm just going to spend a ton of money to now I'm going to start investing? Because I can totally relate. That's sort of what I did too. I was able to come up with a lot of money working at JP Morgan. A $25 an hour job at college is pretty awesome. And I have a direct sales business where I actually double that income on a part-time basis. And at first, I mean, I was blowing money. I mean, I bought a car too. And and I met an amazing mentor who is a real estate broker in Philadelphia, and I actually ended up investing in a real estate property with him. It's a rehab flip in South Philadelphia, which is an up and coming, appreciating area. So it's going to be cool to see an investment on that lump sum that I put down. And now, I mean, I feel like in a world where when you can create and just afford as much as you want to, I feel like now what I see is more so the long-term gain in investing in assets instead of just building up a bunch of stuff, which really is just worthless long-term.
Yeah. No, definitely. And investing, especially at a young age. I tell
Yeah.
everybody, it doesn't matter what your age is to start investing, but why not start when you're young? You can move, you can hustle now so you don't have to stress out. I look at the baby boomers and I see how much their lack of investing. So to hear that you're investing already, Francis, it's everything.
I have some awesome mentors. That's all I gotta say.
There you
So
go.
so how do you transition from that job and putting away capital to essentially starting your own business, being an entrepreneur full time?
Yeah, so when I noticed my habits through mint.com, I was upset by it. I didn't understand how I could blow through that much money so carelessly. So immediately I threw my cash into a 401k, and I saved probably about 45,000 of the 150 that I earned, and I had that money to play with. So it got to the point with my job where I was checked out. I was psychologically unemployable. I was at the top of my game. I didn't even want to be there. I didn't want to leave my house. I didn't want to talk to doctors. I was plugged in to my part-time business. Because for me, Francis, when I hit my quota mid-year through medical sales, I started to realize that the culture wasn't as supportive as I thought. I had a mentor in that company start mocking me. And he's supposed to be someone who I'm looking up to. And I started to look at the development of the teammates and the way this company, their vision was. It was very different than what I was teaching and what I was learning. I felt like I was in the wrong room. Like I was almost the smartest person in the room. And it just told me that I outgrew that current state. So when ultimately I left and I started my own business, it was like the best feeling in the world because it's the first time where you're actually working for yourself. You wake up and your purpose is to move your business forward. Just so happens that with the business that I do with health coaching, it's all about connecting and meeting new people and really on the back end, developing your brand so that I start attracting people that I want to work with. And it's been so fun because you wake up with purpose and you go to bed satisfied. And some days I'll stay up till 2 a.m. just playing around and connecting with people in fun ways. And it's technically work, but it's not. So it's really been an amazing change. And it's very, very lucrative being in this type of business in the industry of health and wellness. I tell everybody, we're not going anywhere. Health and wellness is not going anywhere. Same thing with beauty and skincare. So there are definitely two industries that people want to have their eye on if they are considering, doing something part-time or investing anywhere, to look into those two type of industries.
Awesome. So if anyone wants to get in contact with you about how you did what you did, or I mean, how can they get in contact with you? How can they um, go and purchase some of the products and the services from your business?
Yeah, so you can go to my website. It's www.sheri, Sheri, A as in apple, Z as in zebra, Homayoon, HOMAYOON.com. That is my personal website. So Francis, anyone interested in connecting with me, you'll see you can go right there. You can connect to me through phone, or if you want to schedule a time to actually chat, I give free 15-minute coaching calls. So anyone
Okay.
can go right on there and connect with me.
Got it. And then what's one last piece of advice that you would want to give to just everyone out there who watches either this live feed or the replay?
Yeah, so my biggest advice would be to really remember that if you want to live an extraordinary life, which I believe is our birthright, joy is our birthright. Everyone deserves to feel amazing and happy and have peace of mind. So if you really want to live an extraordinary life, you must develop an extraordinary psychology, and that starts right here. So if you want to be successful, you remember that success is a mindset. If you want anything, you remember that your thoughts become things. And that's ultimately the best advice that I give to someone that's really thinking of taking their game to the next level. Francis, thank you so much for having me.
Real quick. How does
Yeah.
someone go and get that mindset though? If I'm sitting on this channel, I'm like, how do I go out and get this amazing mindset?
So two different ways. One, you hire me. Two, you listen to the books that I'm going to recommend to you while we're speaking. Because once I learn more about a person, I generally, regardless if they're in a position to hire me or not, I can lead them in the right direction. I always send my light and love with everybody I speak to. So that's generally how you're going to develop it. It's really by learning from other people that can teach you why you do what you do, so that you can get really a good grasp of what's going on up here.
And I'd say my biggest piece of advice to answer that question is you got to have phenomenal mentors, which episode 1 was with one of my buddies, Pete Tamillo, and he's a millionaire and had a $1 million construction business. And through just surrounding yourself with people who have done it, you can learn from the mistakes that they have. I feel like that's how you win life, is to learn from people who are successful, have already done it. And I mean, yeah, thanks, Sheri, for hopping on the call. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Dallas was fun, and have fun in Vermont this weekend.
Yeah, so chemo. Thank you so much, Francis. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk with everybody.
Awesome. I'll catch you later.
Okay.